They had lived on the road ever since the day it all went to hell, finding caravans, buses, motorhomes, anything they could to travel around in and stay safe from the rams. They had shared 1,000 stories beside the campfire, reliving their adventures, their near escapes from reanimated corpses, violent conflicts and difficulty with other groups of travelling bandits. Anything that made a good tale. In their lives before, they had existed in the shadows, making their money in the grey if not the black economy. Life now was not so very different. Mason's eyes glinted in the flickering flames, and the bottle he brought up to his mouth cast an amber filter on his normally ruddy face. He glugged back a couple of mouthfuls of whiskey before handing it to the next person in the circle. "So, it was just me against two of them things," he continued. "I was out of bullets, and I'd dropped my knife on the other side of the wall. Their grey eyes, those devilish pupils, locked onto me, and they charged," he said, looking around the campfire at the rest of the faces as they all watched, eagerly anticipating his words as well as the bottle being passed their way. "What happened? What happened then, Mason?" Tanya, the woman who now held the bottle, asked. Mason exhaled a whiskey-fumed breath and brought his hands up in front of him, shadow playing the events as he recalled them. "Well, the wall was easily 12 foot, so there was no way I was getting back over that." He looked around again to see everybody hanging on his words. "I had two choices, kill or be killed. I readied myself. They were both lightning fast, but one was maybe just a foot in front of the other. That's when I knew I had a chance. The first of them dived at me, almost flying it was. It launched through the air like a bird, its arms stretched out in front of it, its hands reaching for me, trying to grab me." He paused again as a second bottle made it into the circle, and he took a thirsty drink from it before passing it on. Tanya closed her fingers around his, and the pair looked at each other in a drunken gaze, both knowing instantly that they would have someone to share their bed with tonight. "Then what happened?" Tanya asked, provocatively licking her lips before putting the mouth of the bottle up to them, letting the whiskey flow down her throat. For a moment Mason forgot himself, transfixed by the woman in front of him, but then he turned back to the rest of his audience. "Well, that was almost like being back in the boxing ring. In the ring, you have to know how to give and take a punch for sure, but you need to duck, weave and parry too. I saw my opportunity and I parried," he said, jerking both his arms to the right as if he was fending off the same potential blow that very moment. "Well, that thing, it went straight into the wall. I heard the crack, like a coconut smashing. Then it was just me and the other one. It came at me the same way, only I didn't have time to straighten up and bring my body back round, so I ducked and rolled." Excited gasps went up from around the circle, just as the first bottle was passed back to him. Mason took another drink and looked across to the other fires. At least half a dozen were burning inside the wide camp ring that had been created by the vehicles. At each one, stories like this were being told, and the narrators knew only too well that if they weren't entertaining, the audience would soon lose interest and move along. He passed the bottle to Tanya, who repeated the gentle but barely perceptible caress of his fingers. "And it was dead? Did its head crack like the other?" "No. Then I realised what a fool I'd been. These things, they're not like men. They just keep going. The first one, it stood up. Stood up, I'm telling you." "No," a woman from the other side of the fire exclaimed. "Yeah, it stood up. Its skull was cracked all right, but that wasn't the end of it. Its forehead was all caved in. Its nose was squashed, and I was practically out of its socket. But that thing came back towards me, running no less." "Then what?" Tanya asked. "Well, by then I was really pissed off.